The team is now small. The team is not a fan of the game, but of the game. The first is that the new technology is already being developed. This is a sign of the next season. We know the NBA has been a disappointment this season. Several mature stars have been booked for a major illness season. Some have not paid for the entire season. The other is, the game was played in the first round of the playoffs, and the team was not able to find the right players. The first is that the new generation of the same name is going to be the next generation. So the stars are paying off. What additional help will the team get? What is the view of the union? The NBA season 26.27. Is there any hope for a better season than this one? Today, let's have a little chat. The stars who will return next season. We are not going to stop them. The players who have not played at all this season are starting to understand. The first thing to talk about is, the LBJ is the only active member of the group. The second oldest one hit the road. Arvin is a writer. Arvin's return to the toxic star. It is very important. Last summer, the risk of toxic star cluster exposure is 1.8%. The first time I hit a distant visa in a match, Arvin got this from Fled. I thought I had AD, PJ, Clay, a talented player, and the others. The first season of the show will be a good one. The story is told in the first person, but the story is moving in the opposite direction. After the start of the season, Fled hit the wall of the new show. The first is the lack of injection. The first game of this season was a remarkable victory for the Tox Stars. The United Nations is the only country in the world that has a nuclear power plant. Fled finally got a feeling of shock. The Poison Star was injured again in AD. The first livelihood of the storm. The problem is that no one has access to the internet. Even PJ was also killed in the previous off-field events. The contest is not a contest. The military is not a threat to the country. The first is the Toxic Star, which is a powerful poison star. The most extreme forces in the world. Fled, 18, was a young woman who had been a victim of sexual abuse. What is more, he is not willing to give up. The team was not able to get the number 1 spot. One side of K is in the break Fled. The other side is broken by the helplessness of the people. Fled was pushed directly to the control position. This is a position he has never played before. The story behind the incident is well known. Fled becomes the new king. The whole season of Toxic Star. The first is the crossroads and the second is the crossroads. The first is that they don't really know the rhythm. Space is terrible. If there were no Fledge as the head of the court, maybe a lot of Toxic Star names. The game is not about the players, but about the players. The return of Vin is obviously a solution to many problems. I'm not going to put this 34-year-old back in the job. The first is the Poison Star. But they have a lot of missing parts. It's true that only Vin can make up for it. For example, in space, Vin is the best shot of all the backs of the Toxin Star, the largest third of the production. He is also a Toxic Star. The best defender with no balls to join. At least he grew up with Fledge. The last one finally made it to the box. The government has been trying to get rid of the government. I'm not sure. Vin is the only attacking player in the team who can keep the production going. After the wound, the attack was likely to have taken place before he was wounded. The time scale. The attack was carried out by the Taliban, but at least it was a civilian attack. This is a very important issue. He is the best defensive player in Fledge's history. And after Vin returned, Fledge also helps to better distribute body strength. The defense will also have a greater impact. What is the meaning of this? Fledge was a very violent student at the university. The first is that the ball is very microactive and it is very powerful. But the birds are together. He is a left-handed batsman who has been playing for the team since the beginning of the season. Vin's return. Some Fledge could be released, but no global threat. He is a member of the National Association of Realtors. I'm going to wait for Vin to pay. The show is a tribute to Fledge growth and remembrance of the show #9. The game is a free-to-play game for the Tox Stars. Even the chance to go to the live gym. The situation here is similar to the situation in the streams and the Toxic Stars. The first time I saw a man who was wearing a bracelet was in the back of my head. Halliburton has become the only life-saving weed they can rely on. The report also highlights the importance of the new rules for the use of the internet. The first is organizing. Halliburton is not only the driving force behind the team. The team's offensive line is still alive today. The final of the competition. The first is that the military is not a military force, but a military force. The first is the story of Halliburton. The top league's vision and pitching. The game is a game of chance, and the game is a game of chance. Before he was injured, Halliburton is almost 8.6 assists ahead of the rest of the field. The report also shows that the number of people who have been killed in the conflict is only 2.3 times higher than the number of people who have been killed in the conflict. The president of the Federation is the king of the Confederacy. The report also highlights the importance of the country's economic development. The first is the golden age of the world. The company is also a major player in the global market. The only way to dig is from inside. The key to this excavation could be Zubed's death. The next step is to say, the only place in Zubed is Halliburton. I look forward to coming back. Halliburton and Zubed threaten to take down the building. If the unarmed were in Halliburton, Zubed can generate twins with figures close to 18 times 10. The team is also a part of the team. The video was shot on the internet and was directed by the actor. Halliburton returns to the second problem solve. Space is space. Halliburton is a career arena. Donations of 2.6%. The first three-point shooting rate was 39.2%. He was also a good player, and he was also a good player, and he was also a good player. The three-point line is also open to the outside. This is a huge space influence. The first time I saw the video was in the video. The data is proof of this. Halliburton is not in the season. The team's three-point shot and shot percentage. The number of players in the league has dropped to 17th. The EU is a country that has a high level of security. Of course, this is also the case with a projection stroke. Turnard's departure has some connection. But one thing is certain. The first time I saw the video was in the back of the car. The team is finally reliable enough for the key moments. The ball is divided into three halves. The first is the new season of the Puma. Halliburton is still worried about the situation. Compared to last season, the first is that they replaced Turnard with Zubed. India raises and lowers projections. Halliburton after the big business. I don't know how many other successes are at the summit. The Eastern District is now a deadly enemy. The following is a list of articles related to the internet. I'm not really interested in racing. The first is that the country is not a country. I'm not sure if this is the best chance. I'm going to tell you again. Lillard's return to help the guests. The first is the ring and Halliburton. The team is playing against Lillard. The first time I saw a woman in the world was in the middle of a nightmare. The first is that they are not the only ones who are in the position. Some are still training positions. The first is the Sharp and Henderson. At least in the regular stage of the race, Lillard's return is not necessarily possible. The effect is too exaggerated. The team is not going to be able to get a third of the points. The goal is to get the ball. I'm not sure. Botland signed back Lillard's original intent. I'm not sure if he's going to grow up again. He is 35 years old. The report also highlights the importance of the new technology. The key is to be a key player in the game. The race is almost the same. Lillard is back after his recovery. He is a former professional wrestler and a former professional wrestler. The team's participation in the event is very clear. We have changed our minds. If this year's skill contest is a mass, a healthy Lillard has returned. The first is that the planet Mars is not going to be able to reach much. The answer is yes. Lillard is able to block 3.5-hour distances. The government has also been criticizing the government for its actions. The first is that the government is not going to be able to stop the violence. The game is over. The team is not in the midst of a crucial moment in the FD. The problem is that we don't have any help. The first is that the government is not going to be able to do anything. The film is about a young woman who is forced to leave her home. He controls the stroke. The first is that the newly created Mars is not a threat to the planet. The final stage of the next race. This is usually a little bit like Lillard plus Holiday. The FDA camera plus the RW3. The total strength of these five. The team's final standings this year are clearly better than the team's. It's a lot more powerful. The last one to mention is this. The card may be slightly smaller than the three people in front. The best position in my life. The only time the people were so angry. However, his championship tactics. The first three were the same. This is the first space launch of the FEV rocket. FEV before the start of the season. In a mini training cabin. The ACL season was a huge success. As a team leader, the game is played in a single round of the tournament. His absence caused a devastating blow to the rocket. I'll see you later. The attack is far beyond anyone's imagination. He is the only reliable vacancy in the team. He is also a member of the National Security Council. The rocket was even hard to carry half the ball. It's not just about the KD or the Sherper. The market is full of traffic control errors. He was also missing after the incident. The rocket was a more advanced offensive tactic than the snowball. The first round was filled with hard-to-find singles. The first time the team was invited to play in the tournament was in January. I've been saying that for a long time. If the FEV returns, the rocket will not be able to go directly to the surface, the top team in the championship category, but it will solve many problems in the end. The video was shot in the middle of the night, and the video was shot in the middle of the night. KD, if you plan to leave this summer, the first is that the government is not going to be able to do anything. But if KD is a solid squadron, I think that's what they say. 26 rockets have not used up 100% of their energy. If you are not healthy, the rocket is more likely to be more powerful than the 26 rocket. The players were all paid for their work. The first is that the game is a big one. The war is over. The first was the death of a woman who was injured. The second half was almost without this person. Last check of the data. The first is that the military is not a military force. I'm just going to talk about it here. Representatives of players like this. The first is 50 binary stars in Earth A. The first time was in the last few weeks of the season. The next round of talks in Washington is over. The total of 15 matches was a new record in the history of the tournament. The average number of games played in the season is 17.9 plus 8.0. The average lifespan is well below the average. The number of soldiers in the army is 8. We all know he is a famous glass artist. He has played in 20 games for the Toxins this season. The first one in Washington, D.C. 20 games, also his lowest in his career. It seems that they are all at the lowest point of their lives. The first major event of the season was not a complete failure, so the chances of these two being small business owners are high. The two adults, who are both mature and full-blown, are not the only ones who need to be seen. I've been talking about it many times before. I'm not going to be able to see it again. One of the teams that thinks it can rise next season. The team is likely to be able to get a set next season. The group is a very talented and imaginative group, but there is no denying that. The two most outstanding players in the team, the same as the A-level. We'll talk about the button. The fire was extinguished on 20 January. He was unfortunately hit by some ACLs in the insurance business. He has played 38 matches this season. It was the lowest of my life. Many fans have said. The first time he was killed was in the morning. The hope of the race for the championship this season is shattered. But instead, think about it. If he can play well next season, the rise of the military will be very obvious to the rebels. Curry added green added butter to the three-piece band. As long as you are completely healthy. The contest in the West District. The first is that the country is not a country. This is a starting point for the regular season. The war in Iraq was a turbulent one and the Allies were at the forefront of the war. I'm not sure what the answer is. Last year's competition. I'm going to tell you about the music. The elderly who are hoping for a boom. The team will be able to survive the 25-26th season. The regular race is filled with. I'm going to see. I'm sorry about that. Butter is not going to pass. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do it. The regular season 26-27 is a good one. Butter is expected to return to the polls. The last thing to talk about is the alphabet. Greek monsters are one of the 5 deadliest. The United States has almost never played a game this year. He is healthy. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to play football. We should not doubt his ability to get out of the way. After all, the 16-17 season started with the team's first win. He has even played 9 years later. This year, however, the main impact is injuries. I'm not sure what I'm saying. The first is that the military is not a force to be reckoned with. He played only 36 games in the end. The first time I saw a woman in the country was in the middle of March. He also never went out again. We don't know if he will be on the road next season. But no matter where he is, we all hope he can find himself again. In a real sense, the Chinese government has also been able to increase its exports to the world. This time we discuss the details. The 8 biggest stars that could be your biggest star next season. The most vulnerable and least comfortable among them. The first is the FEV, which is a standard preemptive space. The letter B is the letter B. 2V and add, etc. The first is the super or sub-super class. If they can stay healthy, the first is that the country is not a country but a country that is a country. The team is not only a huge boost for the team, the competition is good for the whole league. The force will be more. The championships will be more full. I'm going to tell you how amazing I was in the NBA in the 26-27 season. The first is that the government is not a political party. I don't know what the viewers' grandparents think about it.